Breathe better and sleep deeper with the Levoit Classic 160 Top Fill Humidifier. Don't wait. Check out the link in the video description to get your Levoit Top Fill Humidifier on Amazon today and enjoy a healthier, more comfortable home. Welcome to Terror Watch News, your source for in-depth analysis on global terrorism and national security issues. I'm your host today, discussing a recent escalation of Pakistan's efforts to curb cross-border terrorism. Pakistan has launched targeted airstrikes against the Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan (TTP) training camps situated in the border regions along Afghanistan. These attacks have drawn attention for their strategic importance in addressing the persistent threats emanating from TTP's presence in Afghan soil. Contrary to misrepresentations by certain media outlets and the interim Afghan government, EAG, these attacks were aimed specifically at the TTP's terror infrastructure and were not directed against Afghanistan or its forces. Pakistan has long been highlighting the security threat posed by TTP's activities originating from Afghan territories. However, the failure of the IAG to take effective action has only exacerbated the situation, leading to these necessary retaliatory measures. The TTP, a militant organization responsible for numerous terrorist activities across Pakistan, has utilized Afghanistan's porous borders to establish safe havens, training camps, and command centers. These camps have served as focal points for the planning and execution of terrorist attacks within Pakistan, contributing significantly to the destabilization of the region. Among the key figures targeted in these operations were Shir Zaman alias Mukhlis Yar and Abu Hamza, trainers of suicide bombers, as well as Akhtar Muhammad alias Khalil and Shoaib Iqbal, who were central figures in the TTP's media operations. Pakistan's ongoing campaign against TTP camps in the border areas is not merely a reactive measure, but a result of the increasing realization that these camps have long been a persistent source of terror against Pakistan's civilian and military targets. The TTP's continued activities have destabilized the region, resulting in loss of life and displacement of civilians. The camps targeted in the airstrikes had become hubs for terror operations, training future generations of militants, including suicide bombers, who would later carry out attacks across Pakistan. Some critics have attempted to frame Pakistan's actions as an attack against Afghanistan and its current government, a misrepresentation that fails to recognize the real and urgent threat posed by the TTP. Pakistan's actions align with the principle of self-defense under international law, which permits a state to take measures when faced with threats originating from outside its borders. The principle is enshrined in Article 51 of the United Nations Charter, which affirms a nation's right to defend itself against armed attacks, including those from non-state actors. In the case of Pakistan, the threat from TTP has reached a point where airstrikes on training camps are not just an option but a necessity. The IAG, despite its internal challenges, must recognize that the presence of such terrorist groups is not in the interest of either country. It is essential to acknowledge that Afghanistan, under EAG, is still in a process of rebuilding its governance structures and grappling with its own internal issues. However, this cannot serve as an excuse for the continued safe haven that terrorist organizations like the TTP enjoy within Afghanistan. The international community, including Pakistan, has called for stronger actions from the IAG to address these threats. The failure to do so has not only jeopardized Pakistan's security, but has also delayed the prospect of regional stability. Pakistan's airstrikes on TTP training camps should be viewed as a part of a broader effort to ensure peace and security in the region. These recent airstrikes are a reminder that the international community must take a united stand against terrorism, irrespective of where it originates. Both Pakistan and Afghanistan must prioritize the dismantling of terrorist networks and work together to ensure that their shared border does not remain a breeding ground for extremism. Finally, Pakistan's airstrikes against the TTP training camps in the border areas were a necessary and legally justified response to the threat posed by cross-border terrorism. These actions underscore the urgency of addressing the issue of militancy in the region and the need for stronger cooperation between neighboring countries to combat terror. That's all for today's episode of Terror Watch News, where we analyze global terrorism news from around the world. Thanks for joining us on this critical conversation about peace and security in our troubled regions.